This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. It's episode 462 of the Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. It's a wonder I can even count this high. Thankfully, I didn't have to go far for this episode. I am about 3 minutes away from the office, but not in the office. We're sitting in the pilot brewery over in New Belgium. And last week, I got an email from Kelly McKnight, R&D brewer at New Belgium. She's like, hey, we're going to do this collab next week. You want to swing by? I'm like, hell yes, I do. Cannot miss this. The collab they brewed today was with Ashley Carter of Bierstadt and Natalie Rose Baldwin of Wayfinder. And so all of you all are here. Welcome back to the podcast, Ashley.
Oh, thanks. Great for having me back, or thanks for having me back. And Kelly had to do your job for you. Is that what you're saying? She had to, give you the content.
I don't say no when a great offer presents itself. And, but yes, Kelly did an excellent job of helping me out this week. And I'm going to hit the road for the first time this year, tomorrow, in fact, and go, stack some episodes back, and we got a fun trip ahead of them. But couldn't pass up the opportunity to talk to all of you right here. Natalie, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and talk.
Yeah, and Kelly, of course, thank you for inviting me and all of us here to do this.
I am excited.
All right, so through the course of this, though, we'll talk about the beer that you all brewed together. Shocker, not a shocker. It is a lager beer. It is a lager beer that uses rice, and we will get into some of the details of that, and we're going to use that as a general vehicle to talk about lager brewing with all of you, all excellent lager brewers, all excellent brewers, period, but also excellent lager brewers in a more specific sense. We're going to also talk about when you at this stage of lager brewing in the North America. What is driving each of you and what you all are learning along the way as you dive into not just creative projects, but also technical projects and kind of take a temperature of where lager brewing is for you all. Now, before we get started, I just want to mention we are doing the Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast live Monday night, April 20th at CBC. We're going to be at Union Transfer, an iconic music venue. We got space for hundreds and hundreds of people. It is going to be a blast. We're getting the IPA gang back together, Vinny Chilurzo, Kelsey McNair, Evan Price, and we are going to have some awesome secret special guests that are going to pop in for the segments. Looking forward to putting on a unique and special version of the podcast live. You can check out more details, cbblive.beerandbrewing.com. And, if you're an all-access subscriber, keep an eye out for free tickets coming your way. If you're a customer of any of our sponsors, reach out to them for tickets. Get them now. They're going to go fast. Let's talk about some lager brewing. But first, G&D's biggest edge isn't just the equipment. It's their deep understanding of brewery operations. From layout to production flow, they bring real-world expertise and build reliable systems that last, whether it's a single-stage 5H or a vertical air chiller. New Belgium Brewing, where we are sitting right now, recently partnered with G&D to install a propane-based Elite 290 chiller, delivering around 50% energy savings compared to CO2 systems. As Andy Collins, New Belgium's carbon neutral engineer, put it, we're really happy to work with a partner like G&D Chillers who helped us significantly reduce the amount of HFCs used in our refrigeration systems. End quote. With 24/7 support and remote monitoring, your cold side stays dialed in day or night. See how leading breweries are cutting energy costs at gdchillers.com/podcast. And Berkeley Yeast just launched Dry Tropics London, their best-selling liquid yeast strain, now with all the ease-of-use benefits of dry yeast. Dry Tropics London delivers the soft, pillowy mouthfeel and juicy character you'd expect from a top-tier London ale strain, but with a serious upgrade, a burst of thiols that unleash vibrant, layered notes of grapefruit and passion fruit. A lot of brewers love the clean passion fruit you get from Tropics, but they don't want every IPA to be a tropical fruit bomb. At the dry yeast price point, you can pitch and ditch without breaking the bank, or you can co-pitch with your house strain to adjust the intensity of the notes. And with nationwide free shipping, there's never been a better time to try Dry Tropics. Order now at berkeleyyeast.com and experience the ease and impact of Dry Tropics London yeast. Also, this episode is sponsored by PackTech, delivering craft beer multi-packing you can trust. PackTech's handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable, helping breweries close the loop and advance the circular economy. With a minimalist design, durable functionality you can rely on, and custom color matching, PackTech helps brands stand out while staying sustainable. Trusted by craft brewers nationwide, they offer a smarter, sustainable way to carry your beer. To learn more, visit packtech-opi.com. That's PAKTECH-OPI.com. Well, we normally start off with a little bit of background, and I will just say, if anyone wants the full background on everyone, we have individual episodes out there with each of you, and so you can go back and listen to those, and I highly encourage everyone listening to do that. But Kelly, why don't you give us a little bit of background on New Belgium R&D and kind of set the stage for this project that you all are working on together?
All right. So since the last podcast we did together, where I talked about how our R&D works, it has changed up a little bit. Meaning that now New Belgium, in our pilot brewery that I run and hopefully make good beers out of.
Hopefully.
Yeah. It's 100% cool beers that like aren't just test batches for scale. Now it's like all just beers for market and beers to obviously be rad and taste good, but nothing's like test batch. It's just straight up good beers for our local markets and cool stuff.
Yeah, you also have a pretty phenomenal tap room, and it's New Belgium, and people just come here and they know the big brands, but they also want something fun and special when they're here. And the volume that you all do is pretty significant here in the tap room. Yeah,
so our pilot brewery in Fort Collins is the only one that New Belgium has in our whole like network of breweries, and our beers that we brew in here go to Fort Collins, obviously, Daleville, which is about to open up. That's in North Carolina, and then our Asheville brewery. So all the pilot beers here are like cool, rad stuff.
It's fun. It's been fun to kind of like, you don't realize the amount of volume like that a tap room at a brewery the size of New Belgium can actually do. And that just feeding those tap rooms can be a thing in of itself, and that's super cool. Natalie, for you and Wayfinder, what has happened in the ensuing couple years? Last time we talked, we were actually had set up in the brew house at Bierstadt.
Yeah.
And so here we are in the pilot brewery at New Belgium with Ashley from Bierstadt. Hey, there's some permutation going on here. But how have the last couple of years been for you?
Yeah, so when we first talked, I had just taken over Wayfinder, and since then we've done a lot of really cool stuff. It's kind of hard to label because it's our accidental sort of R&D. Accidental meaning it's our production beer that goes straight to market. We don't have a smaller pilot batch, so everything that we brew, whether we're experimenting, it's something tried and true, or just our normal tinkering, goes through the same brewery. But over the last couple of years, we've brewed a lot of what I've been calling like contemporary American lager, because it goes from just simple adjunct beer, potentially using American noble hops as climate change has been shifting some of the continental varieties, as well as just really having fun. I think like when I initially took over the brewery, I was worried about sort of keeping Wayfinder in this like traditional lager vein. And while we still have a lot of those brands and new versions of brands to kind of dial them in the way that I wanted to dial them, while respecting sort of the history of what Wayfinder was from the beginning. And Ashley and I, a couple years ago, brewed the first rice lager that I had made at Wayfinder. And from there, learned a lot about the specific rice grits that I buy all the time. And from there, I just like hit the ground running, and that became my platform for a lot of really cool beer. Rice lagers with fruit, tea, spices, basically all sorts of flowers, all the fun things that I've traditionally worked on, traditionally flowers, but just over my career, working in R&D. So, a little bit of traditional, a little bit of wild, and just where the two marry each other, and without sounding egotistical, just like the esoteric vibe of all of that, and really enjoying the platform of lager beer and where it can kind of go inside of my version of creativity.
Well, I think we may have to talk about some of that intersection of rice, lager, and ingredients, because you and Kelly, and then, of course, Lee from Narragansett, have also brewed an interesting collab in that. Maybe we'll get to that if we have time to talk about it. Cold IPA, still kind of holding the cold IPA flag for Wayfinder. I mean, Wayfinder was the first brewery to launch that way.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons I really wanted to work for Wayfinder, I loved my job at Breakside and I wasn't really looking to leave. So when I had the opportunity to work here, none of the places I'm currently at with any of the people I'm with, but when I had the opportunity to work at Wayfinder, one of the big reasons was because of the brand that already existed. And, to me, the whole movement of cold IPA is the movement of innovation in the industry. And I love that. And, while we know people have been brewing IPA with lager yeast for a long time before before cold IPA became the particular name for that type of innovation. We still brew a lot of cold IPA. It's sort of just a different version of our West Coast IPA at this point. We'll still brand some things. We made this beer last year called the Watchers, and that was a cold IPA that I really liked. So I don't know. We're still into it. Super excited about the hype. People come from all around the world and share their cold IPAs, and we have those conversations. So super into it, but definitely, I wouldn't say that's the leading innovation that we're doing at the brewery now. But it is the groundwork for a lot of the innovation we have available.
Sure. And Ashley, welcome back. This is your third time here on the Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast.
It is my third time, as you pointed out. But to be honest, I've never been alone. So I'm just letting you know.
You've never been alone?
I've never been alone.
Huh.
You always just squeeze me in when you need a fill in. It's okay. I'll take it. He told me to give him a hard time, so here I am doing it.
That was an official snap.
Yeah. It was.
It's all right. I'll take it.
Although you do also have 2 videos in the Craft Beer and Brewing video library in addition to all of the podcasts. Also not alone. I know you're going to say it. I know you're going to say it.
No. What I was going to say is the reason
Yeah.
why there's a second one, and the reason why it inspired you. It's okay. I can be your muse. It's cool. What inspired you to go out and do more of those videos, which has been great for me, and I really appreciate being able to do those things. I get a lot of compliments on them, and all the other ones you've done have been wildly, just excellent.
I love all of those. It's such a cool way to see who the people are, where they are, what their space is. And it's just like an addition to the voice.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to be surrounded by, honestly, all the people that I really like. So I get to be on a podcast with Jeff Bagby, Natalie, Kelly, Bill. It's been great. So just got to give you a hard time. And you, Jeff.
Yeah, he's at all of them.
All of them.
I am there for all of them. And you should also mention the second video, how the second video came about.
Yes.
Because we were at a bar having some beer together.
In the Czech Republic. We were I was probably not having beer at that point. If you know me at all, you can understand my musings of Czech lager. Maybe musings isn't the right word. I was probably drinking pink bubbly wine at that point. I was like, I want to do another one. I have more to say and more to put out there as we've learned and dialed in some of our processes and stuff like that. So I definitely wanted to get another opportunity to put more information out there. I've been lucky enough to learn from a bunch of people, and I think it's part of my job as a professional and as what we do to tell people what I know so that other people can make better beer, or honestly, so we just talk shit and drink lager about it later and people can call me on my bullshit. So I like that too.
Absolutely. So it was the first night of the Czech mission trip a few years ago. What was it, 2023? And I was like, I have this idea.
It wasn't the first night.
It was.
It had to be the last
No, it was Sunday night. It was the very first night.
All right. Well, I got started early then.
Yeah, well. And, we were at that hotel in, I can't remember the name of the district, but just up the road from Dva Kohoti. And you're like, I have this idea for you. And whenever you come to me with an idea, it's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. And just like when Kelly comes to me, idea, like let's do this.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Anyway, that resulted in that. Long story short, go check out those videos, both of them, but especially the second one with Bierstadt on lager brewing. With all of that background out of the way, let's pivot and talk about this project, but also talking about where you are with your own lager brewing for all three of you these days. Before we do that, the multi-layered wonders of indie hop strata are now easier than ever for brewers to tap into. Introducing Strato Crya in collaboration with Yakima Chief Hops. Whether brewing up a single hop strata IPA to wow customers with the depth of flavor this variety delivers, or modernizing your flagship IPA to continue setting the highest standards, Strata T90, Strata CGX, Strata Hyperboost, and now Strata Cryo provide the tools for brewers to create their unique masterpiece. Indie Hop Strata, life is short, let's make it flavorful. And this podcast is sponsored by the Midea 50/50 Flex, the industry's first dual compartment 3-way convertible freezer. The 50/50 Flex is designed to flex with your life. It can convert to all fridge, all freezer, or half and half with just the touch of a button. Plus, with reversible doors and adjustable storage compartments, you can stay organized no matter what your food storage needs. The 50/50 Flex is also designed to maintain a stable temperature even in non-climate controlled spaces, so it's perfect for your garage, man cave, or wherever you need a little more space. If you're like many listeners to this podcast, you may want to use all 20 cubic feet as a beer fridge. Check out midea.com/US for more information on how to take your beer storage to the next level. Also, if your brewery is using fruit juice concentrates, purees, and blends, then why not source everything from a one-stop shop? Old Orchard might be best known for flavored blends, but if you need 100% purees or concentrates, then Old Orchard can likely help, even with options not listed on their website. Let Old Orchard know what you need at oldorchard.com/brewer. That's oldorchard.com/brewer. All right, Kelly, why don't you kick off the talk about this beer in particular? You know, you wanted to do a fun collab with friends who are also badass lager brewers at the same time, but figuring out some middle ground between the two. Talk about that process and talk about how you came to an idea for a beer to brew together.
All right. So I don't want to be like too much of a fangirl, but I am. I'm going to say I've always looked up to Ashley and Natalie as like amazing brewers in the industry, but not only just for their brewing skills, but as like also women that fucking are badasses and don't give a shit and they just want to brew. And that's one thing that means a lot to me too, is like we've gone through crap and I just want to make beer also. And so I've always admired their spirit with that. And they've done that and I've seen that. And then through the years we became buddies and together all, you know, Ashley I met, Natalie, whatever. And
Natalie, whatever.
Come on. I mean, like,
no, you're being really sweet. I'm just giving you a hard time because you're
I'm
my friend.
hard with talking about feelings. My
You're
wife
doing
will
a
attest.
really good job.
Thank you. So these two people in particular, I mean, it's not like there aren't other people out there that are women I admire in beer. I mean, I work at the New Belgium Pilot, and it was like, hey, you know, 2026, who do you want to brew with? And they were my first two people I thought of. But I was like, it's two people. It could be two different beers, but like, why not just do it all together? And so I reached out to my buddies. You both are pretty cool and we're pretty tight. And I was like, yeah, let's just like do it. And side note, it's kind of funny. And I don't know what Ashley's going to say about this, but I was supposed to work on another one with her. I asked her, but it was like way outside her wheelhouse it was a lager, but it wasn't like more traditional. And she was like, dog, I cannot fucking put my name on that. But Bierstadt's name on that. But at the same time, that beer ended up being pretty good.
It was good.
And
we had it today. It was
the
good.
brewers
great.
that did it were awesome and we had a great time. But I understood that and I was like, shit, she's not going to work with me because she thinks I'm like this tool bag. Anyway, whatever. when I reached out to work with Natalie and Ashley, and they both were like, yeah, let's do it. That was great. But at the same time, leading up to this whole beer, it was like, fuck, we're so busy. Like, both of us, in every which way possible, we're so busy. And I know Ashley only lives down the street or whatever, 1 hour away in Denver at Bierstadt. And I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado. But Natalie's over in Portland, and her life is fucking crazy.
All of our have wild lives. Yeah,
it's just a lot of shit. So I was like, okay, these two badass ladies said yes, but how are we going to do it? And then anyway, it worked out. We finally found a window of time, and we could bring Natalie into Colorado, and everybody could like make it down here. And I don't know, like, I am fangirling, but I'm going to shut up and talk about that more later, maybe. But that's why I reached out, because I'm like, lager queens, Ashley, Natalie, and like, whatever. I make lagers all the time, but I don't make them on the level that Ashley and Natalie do, right? Like,
if truth be told, I'm fangirling a little bit now too with all of you, and super excited to be having this conversation with all of you. I'm curious about this line though that you have, Ashley. There are some things in the lager world that you will collaborate on, and there's some specific things where you're like, nope, that's a stretch too far, and that is a constraint that you all have put on yourselves, and you've willingly done that. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think, I'm not opposed to experimenting a little bit here and there and stuff, but, it has to me, collaboration, I think, is sometimes, this is not a knock on the beer, by the way. It was excellent. I tasted it today. I still wouldn't have put my name on it because it didn't feel like true to the kind of thing that I'm trying to put out into the industry. Everybody took it really well. It just kind of got a little too, it was a fruited lager. And to me, I just couldn't do it. Collaboration to me means so much that it has to feel like I'm not just participating because of people's names on it or because we're friends or whatever. It does have to feel like something that I would want people to know that we made. And the people who did make it is Sun King, and it was great. They're all really excellent brewers. Obviously, Kelly here is an excellent brewer. Weldworks. Obviously these people make a lot of really great beer. It just wasn't the kind of beer that felt like it fit with and I don't even like the word like brand or whatever. It just didn't, I had nothing to add to the conversation to make this beer better, which I like to be a part of that. And so it didn't really feel like it fit, even that I could add to it at all. So that's why. And it was fine. Everybody's good.
And just like, I really respected Ashley saying that. Like when we were talking about it and she was, first of all, and we hadn't talked about the beer. But when you're like, it's just not my jam. And Bierstadt does this and your other breweries do that. I really respected that because it's actually the first time I've ever been told, like, it's just not for me. And I thought it was pretty fucking cool, actually, that you stood up for yourself and said, hey, man, this is my brand. And nobody else, the other breweries didn't, they all respected it too. Sure, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, having some boundaries and understanding what Bierstadt means and what you want it to mean. It only means what you put out in the world and how people connect to that. And, if your email address includes Reinheitsgebäsch or...
Reinheitsgebäsch, yeah.
Ashley wasn't being mean. It was like, yo, this is just me being me. And
sure,
you guys do it. And some other time we'll... Yeah, it was just really pretty cool. Yeah.
So, Natalie, tell me about that conversation you all, and how did that develop, and how did you determine the right beer to move forward with that was going to reflect all three of you all in some equal measure?
Like all good collaborations, it started with none of us responding to emails.
But also kind of still texting each other at the same time. It's like I have read your email. I promise I
don't have the time to give you the full response. So I read it. Let's talk about it in a minute. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I sort of blacked out what happened before we came to a decision, but it was, trying to like pepper ideas back and forth to come up with maybe like an ingredient before there was like a full concept. Kelly was talking about, what was the berry thing?
Okay, real quick. I had like been trying to resource pre-Reinheitsgebot recipes that Ashley maybe would have considered that, because New Belgium's like basically makes whatever the fucking crazy stuff. But I was like, oh well, if it's pre-Reinheitsgebot and it's still German, maybe Ashley would do it. So there was a lot of slow berry beers back in the day, like everybody brewing on the farms. And I was like, do you think Ashley would do that? There was no response from Ashley. Natalie
I
was
probably
like,
didn't get that far.
Maybe.
Yeah, I said probably maybe, not, but yeah.
Slow berries are cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we were just kind of dialing in ingredients that were available. We had spoken of some sort of adjunct lager, and then from there, purple corn, how do we mill it? Can we step it? Just sort of the options available to systems, and then dialing in from there. And not to be boring, every time anyone wants to make a beer with me, I'm like, do you want to make a rice lager? And
I'm like, do you want to make a single malt, single hop beer? That's my go-to.
I was like, how about two? How about two malts?
I know.
I guess
crazy.
not one malt, but whatever. And yeah, so it's just kind of the conversation around that. And I think that there's this delicate balance when you are doing a collaboration, especially with more than one person. Like, it's not too many cooks in the kitchen in like a disrespectful or like unappreciated way, but there's like a time when you chime in, and there's a time when you listen and wait, and sort of like how you contribute to a conversation. So there's a little bit of the dance in that, where you have to wait a minute and be like, we're fleshing out these ideas. We're going to get somewhere in a minute. And then, so I think we all are like waiting for someone to introduce an idea, and then we build off of that, and sort of it eventually turns into something. So, we decided we want to make some sort of adjunct lager, brewery capabilities, available ingredients, and then hops. So we wanted to keep it kind of just like a weird little undefinable lager with familiar ingredients from each of us. So, we talked about rice, chose middle fruit hops, and we're using a yeast that we haven't used before.
Yeah.
Go. Do it.
No, I think the through line with all three of us and our breweries making a beer is like, we really want to make a clean lager, right? And maybe because that's what people want now or whatever, but to us, I think obviously Ashley and Natalie, that's what they do. And then for me, how I view it is, or I think how New Belgium views it is, Natalie makes rice beers. I don't mess around too much with the rice lagers. I do them, but Natalie's like the pro at that. Lagers also, who does a great ass lager is freaking Ashley. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And both of you. And so for me, I was like, okay, like I'm doing all kinds of stuff left and right. And what could we work together to make that's cool and bring our three skills together? Because I'm not going to lie to say that we're all pretty good brewers.
With different,
you know what I'm saying?
Information and
resources and skills. Mm-hmm. And so then I was like, what the hell can I bring? And I was like, oh dude. So my thing was, I brought in, I think, the idea of using a Mexican lager strain. Am I allowed to say who it's from?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm answering for you.
There's no secrets here.
For all three of us, we've never used it, but I trust these people immensely. Am I allowed to?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So I love Omega yeast. This is not an ad. I just love them. I love other places too that give us yeast. But Omega is like, I love them. And so in the New Belgium pilot, we constantly, like, I order in all their stuff, and so I really trust them when they give me information and tell me about, like, this, that, and the other about each strain that I'm in New Belgium Pilot, like, I'm using all the time, right? Like, this is not a ding or anything, but you guys, Natalie and Ashley, are probably very consistent with your strains. I'm just fucking around all over the place with whoever I use, right?
It's part of your job, though.
It is part of my job. So I'm just saying that's what I think I brought was talking to them. And okay, so we're making a Mexican lager with, we can go into it more individually, but yeah, we're making a Mexican lager with this certain strain from Omega, and it kind of brings together
a Mexican lager with rice.
Well, yes.
Everybody knows it should be called a Japanese lager if it has rice in it.
I want them to talk about it more. So it's, so that was just like my little New Belgium thing. It's not, and again, I think a tenet. I'm not smart. What's the thing? What's the thing you're a characteristic of New Belgium beer is we always like just mess around and do crazy shit. And so anyway, this isn't that crazy, but I thought bringing in a strain that both you guys didn't really use made it a little bit different. But your expertise and your skills with raw ingredients and everything like that, we kind of all melded together to not make a fucked up thing that Ashley wouldn't put out on the market.
Yeah, I like, for me, a big thing about collaboration. I think they like kind of start really wide and you start to like narrow in. And, I like to listen to what everybody's saying because, some of this stuff I'm so narrow in what I do and what I think that sometimes I, lean on that a lot. And so for me, like, I like to listen to what people are throwing out there because there may be just things I don't even know ingredient wise that exist out there. And so like, I always look at like a collaboration as an opportunity to learn something or to focus on something that I'd never used before. So I like to keep a very tight set of things, having a jasmine rice is like, 18% we decided on. And using middle fruit, right? Those are two things in my head that I've experienced before in beer. So now we have this Mexican lager yeast strain that I've never used. And, based on the way we're going to treat it, it's going to be very interesting at a very competent brewery that makes very good beer, to actually examine what that yeast actually is. And so to me, like, I look at this as like an opportunity to pick a single specific thing and compare it to something that I already know, is in my kind of Rolodex of flavors and experiences, and see if I really do like it, especially when I know how it's being made, how it's going to be fermented, etc. You can taste these things in other people's beer, but if you aren't necessarily familiar with how they're fermenting it or whatever, you can't really compare it necessarily. So I kind of let, Natalie's so good at asking questions, and Natalie and I are very, very good friends, that she already knows what I would ask anyways. Like, I feel
I'll be like, no, she's not going to do that.
Yeah, like she knows, like she already knows.
If the world out there doesn't know, Natalie is a very good question asker.
Yeah, she's extremely thoughtful.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Good question.
So, just letting her do that, and like the responses back and forth. And then also I'm really bad at my email. If it's more than 3 sentences long, there's a good chance I'll probably just call you. Because I don't think I can root through the rest of it. I can read, I promise, but comprehension. Different.
All right, I'm going to let Natalie ask all the rest of the questions on this
That's
podcast. Great. I cannot wait.
All right, let's go.
But let's talk about...
yes, I will drink margaritas with you later.
Yes.
But let's talk about this. And I think that this like desire for North American brewers to overly classify things as it's Mexican because it's got corn, it's Japanese because it has rice, like, is just so silly and overwrought and unnecessary. And so we won't talk about it in those kinds of senses, other than to say that for marketing purposes, someone like Omega may put a term like Mexican lager yeast on something because of the origin of that strain and because of the general kind of midline of its usage. That doesn't mean that that is the exclusive use for that ingredient. Just simply means that this is, kind of that middle of the broader spectrum and where it generally lies in the mean. I'm never one for too much excessive categorization.
Yeah, me neither.
And some of these things just kind of, annoy me. I think creative artists work across the broad spectrum and don't need to just kind of pigeonhole them. So we won't talk about that, but we will talk about what that means in terms of what your goals were for building flavor and building a really interesting and drinkable beer that also connects back with these kinds of ideas and expectations that people have for lager. Before we do that, pumps are critical to any brewing setup, from home brewing through nano brewing, and of course at the pro level, from mash recirculation to wort transfer, and even for cleaning. A quality pump is a key part of every brew day. The SS BrewTech pump from SS BrewTech is engineered to tackle even the messiest brew days and do it at a scale homebrewers can afford. Featuring an IP55 water resistance rating, an easy-to-use DIN head with 360-degree rotation, and a flow rate of up to 11 gallons per minute, it has the power to keep your brew day moving. Visit ssbrewtech.com/pump to learn more about how the SS BrewTech pump can upgrade your home brewery. And tickets are on sale now for the annual Craft Beer and Brewing Brewers Retreat, August 23rd through 26th in the hop country of Yakima Valley, Washington. There's nothing like this fantasy homebrew camp experience as you brew in small groups led by some of the most inspiring brewers in the world. Folks like Vinny and Natalie of Russian River, Ben from Breakside, Henry and Adriana of Monkish, Kelsey from North Park, Whitney from Grand Fir, Sean from Lawson's Finest, and more. This year we'll be brewing under the bines at Bale Breaker, and it is sure to be an unforgettable experience. Tickets are on sale now and going fast at brewersretreat.com. So you nominally have this idea for a lager that's going to use this Omega Mexican lager yeast, that's going to use rice, as its primary adjunct, and connect back to that kind of Natalie Wayfinder approach. Talk to me about next steps of this recipe development. Where did you all go from there? And again, you're not putting labels on it. You're just moving forward, trying to make an interesting beer with some of these, these ingredients that you all have decided on.
I think an interesting part of this is, like Ashley was talking about, she has this, her style is having this clear awareness of building flavor with structure and hop volume. And like when she's writing a recipe, she does it by hand. Part of it is like reference based off of other beers that she makes. And then Kelly and I, more in R&D for a long time, the way that I think about beer is building, maybe not layers, but you're building the experience through both, aroma, mouthfeel, flavor, dryness, all of these things building up together. So if we're going to start with a palette of a rice lager, then where do we go from there? Do we, if we know we're going to use traditional hops, do we want it to be aromatic? All the things that everybody knows. And I can't remember exactly where we went, but I think that we decided the beer ingredients, and then Kelly sort of put it together in her recipe spreadsheet. And we talked a bit about this last night when we were drinking beers, about how when you look at other people's spreadsheets and just information, it is just a wild experience, and how much you learn about someone based on how they collect information, process information, and prepare themselves for a brew day. And so Kelly sent over a spreadsheet, and my nosy ass went through all of the different folder sheets, whatever you want to call it. And
you're a very curious. Awesome. Good job.
Thank you. I just want to know. I just want to know what it means. And then I'll be like, what is this? And as Ashley said, this is a learning experience for all of us. As if you've ever judged anything, there's this sort of uniform way to talk about beer. Each brewery and, people just have their own, what's the word for lexicon? Everyone has their own lexicon, but then when you're in all these environments with crossover, you have to figure out what someone else's lexicon means to you, and sort of the same thing with building a spreadsheet. So Kelly sent over the spreadsheet, and then becomes the conversation of, are you trapped in being a ding-dong American using Fahrenheit and pounds, or do you have easy conversions all across your spreadsheet?
Do the boil time in seconds?
Yeah, so I'm reading through it, and I'm like, okay, so where is this, where is that, whatever. And because of her having to scale, there's this brewery, Fort Collins, Asheville, there's all of these things in there, so everything can be translated through. Excuse me, sorry, I just burped. And then we I'm like trying to find all the information on there. And as Ashley just said, the brew is in seconds. And I'm like, how many seconds? Because if you're trying to give feedback, you have to be able to read the brew log so that you can talk about it. So I'm like, how long did she set the brew? When are we adding things? What are the mash temp steps and all of that kind of stuff? And I finally found the hops, which again were added at seconds. So then I'm like using my I think I was like, Google, how many seconds is 75 minutes? And anyway, so something that I found interesting in this, and Kelly can speak more to it because I believe I contributed 0 to it, but we sort of talked about using the hops, and then she added the timing in, and we did a cool pool of middle brew. So I was not expecting that, but we did a beginning of boil charge.
Fucking wild.
I know. Yeah, we did beginning of boil charge, and then a cool pool whirlpool edition. Have you ever done that, Ashley?
No. I mean, I barely know what that means. I do know what it means because I can put words together. But as far as in practice, I have no idea.
Yeah, I've never done it with like continental hops. I don't know like what sort of difference it makes, especially in lager beer. So, oh my gosh, it's so exciting.
I mean,
it
middle brew would be
sounds to me
interesting.
like you should listen to the recent episodes of the Craft Beer and Brewing podcast with Jaron from Helper Beer, as well as Zach from Urban Rest, both of whom are cool pooling their GABF medal winning lager beers.
Cool.
And
Cool,
so I
literally
think this
cool.
is completely on trend, interestingly enough, whether intended to or not. But there is this kind of trend. And obviously now,
And even if I hear what someone else says, like I understand what they're saying, but until you experience it, and whether it's smelling it as you add the hops or what it smells like at knockout or first day of fermentation, that's sort of when you notice the changes. And yeah, someone can say something as much as possible, but until you implement it into your own system, own process, own lots of hops, own knockout, just all of the things, like that's how I learn.
And absolutely, especially with like a lager, right? You're that contact time, in the cool pool, but how it over time changes, how the intensity kind of figures itself out. What does it add to bitterness? Like, what does it add to like herbality, or what it adds to like that kind of traditional character? Like, what are you actually getting out of it? Because I think sometimes like a lot of whirlpool hops for kind of these more traditional noble hops, which again that term wasn't really invented till way later, but these kind of noble hops can be kind of polarizing depending on how much or when. So I'm very interested about it being a little bit cooler, because I think it could really work well. Get some of the more like citric, punchy flavors.
Berry, not punchy. Interesting.
I'm actually pretty excited. I know you guys don't, I don't know, cool pool a lot, maybe, I don't know, but at your brew houses. But I'm pumped because we have that opportunity to do it in our brew, and I'm just pumped to see how I do like middle brew.
Yeah. And
so I'm really excited to see it, how it comes through, and just that character lends through. I think with the beer we're making, and I know you both know, but how you can pre-taste the beer, knowing the yeast and the hops and the grain, what it may taste like.
Yeah.
I feel like it in my head tastes pretty awesome, knowing that we have that light middle fruit in there.
Yeah, so I need the ability to cool pool. I mean, I don't even really have that.
We just water dilute because it would clog our heat exchanger the way that we have it. But
yeah, I can't even
You got a wild copper brewery. I just dug through my
wild copper.
I just dug through my recipes really fast because I was like, have I done a cool pool lager? Guess what I have. We did a beer called Beholder, and it has just Pilsner, and then you guessed it, an adjunct, flaked corn. We have a cereal cooker, but sometimes I just like flaked corn. And what we used, so the first time we did it, we used whole cone crush, because I just wanted to see how peachy it could be in a lager.
Is that the beer I had the last time I was there?
You had a different version of it, but yes, that one. So this one we did fresh hops frozen. I don't know how to say the right order of this. I think YCH just named it, but they like freeze cones and then cryo those.
Phil has done some of that. Pretty interesting.
We used it because they didn't have any whole cone crush available right now because I think they pelletize it all. But I just wanted to see again. Well, honestly, my brewer Jim, who brews like 90%, 95, 98, most of the beer. He does a lot of it. When we used our like really silly tiny little hop back, he was like, okay, we can do this. And so when he didn't have to use the hop back, he was very excited. But we did the cool pool because I haven't used fresh hops hot side in probably 12 years, like a very, very long time, just because where I worked, we stopped doing that. And then I know how to do cold side and whatever. So I just was interested to see
because
how
break side is team cold side.
Yeah. And I just honestly really like we're starting debates. I can hear Steve Luke grumbling in his seat right now. But yeah, like to me, since most of the beer that I've made is lager beer, to have fresh hops sitting, I just like it. The beer is ready. It's exactly what I want it to be. And then it hits the hops instead of just like maybe it's like a little control issue thing. I don't want to wait to see what happens. I want to do exactly like, I want it to behave the way I want it to. But anyways, the fresh cryo, you guys know what I'm trying to say. Fresh hop frozen cryo.
Yeah, fresh.
We use that. And when it was fermenting, that bitch was stanky. She was like, whoo, bold. Lots of hop sulfur, lots of peach, like a little diesel-y. And then when we packaged it, it kind of like muted as it does. And then it got like loud again. And then it like disappeared all the way. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that to be that quiet. And then recently it kind of like popped back up and it's like tangerine, soft peach, whatever. But it's been an interesting... obviously, this isn't traditional middle fruit or anything like that, but this was a different spin on cool pulling with other hops.
Middle fruit's back, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so middle fruit never left.
I don't think it ever left either. Anyways, that was a rant, but cool pulling.
Interesting.
No, yeah,
and I'm
that's
curious.
awesome.
I'm curious
Actually,
about this with middle fruit. So, the goal on this is not like there are those folks that are cool pulling so that they can make the most saturated IPA that they possibly can make. But that is not the goal for this beer. The goal for this beer is to find a character out of this middle fruit that you're using that, feels vibrant and connects with the actual character of middle fruit. It just uses it in this way to express it. So how did that change the way, as you started thinking about cool pulling, you're thinking about quantities and the way that those are going to express in the finished beer. How did you start adjusting the recipe to, knowing that, this cool pulling process is not going to drive off or isomerize in the same kind of way that using middle fruit through the boil would?
I thought with like the capabilities that we have at New Belgium, which is cool to cool pull. I don't know. I think like,
did you adjust the bitterness at all, or were you just kind of like...
I didn't want to deal with the bitterness. I wanted to deal with like the aromatics of the hop. Mm-hmm. And so to cool it down, I thought, this is a very delicate lager. Yeah. I think that is one thing that we're totally like, that's I think what was in my mind. And it was like...
The vibes felt right.
Yeah, the vibes felt like, I wanted like that hop to come through. And so, to cool it down, I just thought, we can express it a lot and it won't overpower the other things we're looking for in the beer, which are like the Mexican lager strain and the rice. So I just wanted to like balance.
Yeah. We'll see what happens, huh?
With this middle fruit, you described it to me as like fresh, maybe fresh AF. In that sense, what did how would you describe that middle fruit? And what were the elements of it that you were really hoping to capture, from a sensory perspective? What is it about that middle fruit that you thought was so awesome? Ashley, did you rub any today while you guys were brewing?
I smelled some while we were putting it in there. I probably should have rubbed it a little harder. But I mean, middle fruit to me, it's the thing about German hops, which I think there's something very unique about the way that it may be continental. I don't know is that called continental?
I don't know. I think I made that up. That's probably what people say.
I have no idea what people say.
What continent are you talking about?
European hops, I guess, is kind of the way that they're kind of packaged, which is not in the same way that like if you go to Yakima or to even New Zealand or whatever, like they're packaged a lot differently to preserve certain things. There's something about that kind of, I always use this term like dusty character that European hops have and noble hops have for the most part, especially the more traditional ones. And I don't think a lot of that comes out necessarily when you're rubbing it. You can smell some of the worst parts of it when you're doing that, but I think definitely, especially in a boiled hop character, you don't really see some of those citric, lemongrassy, sometimes, but not much berry. I mean, you can taste some of the earthiness to them or the spiciness to them, but I find that you can't actually get a lot of that. I'm always very impressed when I get a really nice lot of middle fruit that it took somebody's brain, like what they're looking to get, that you actually get that in the beer. And so, because I don't find that they actually relate that closely to each other. And I have a hard time when I'm smelling hops to understand how those two things relate to each other. I went actually to Yakima this year with Phil, who works with me and owns a brewery called Amalgam. And I just went there and kind of observed the way that they were and just seeing how they are trying to translate it from one to the other, because I don't have a lot of experience with that. So to me, like European hops, because of the kind of, I don't know, like the loosier, goosier way, like just to preserve that kind of oils and stuff like that. I find it's harder to smell them when you rub them than when they actually hit the boil. When you actually smell them when they're in the hot tea is actually when you can understand what they're going to be like. And I smelled awesome as soon as they put them in. So
does that change the way that you evaluate German hops when you are kind of testing them, knowing? And I think it's always a question I love asking brewers, like what makes it into the beer from the rub, because these are different kinds of experiential contexts to try those in, and understanding what does and what doesn't is pretty valuable for brewers.
I think it's harder than I think a lot of people boast that they can tell. I think there's a lot of people out there that there are people that do know, but I think it's much harder. It takes experience of having a lot, smelling it, and then putting in the beer and understanding what actually makes it through. But I think somebody who just sits down and rubs them wouldn't have a very good idea of what it happens to it in a beer, especially depending on if you're cool pooling it or first word hopping it or just merely throwing it into the beginning of a boil. I think it's very hard to translate those things. And it's just kind of a familiarity with the things that you've smelled before that actually you understand what pieces of that actually make it through and what pieces to not be alarmed about if you maybe smell something that you don't like quite that much. And you don't want to be cheesy or any of those things. Obviously we kind of agree on certain things that are not allowable, but I think it's harder to pick out some of the nuances, at least for me.
Until you use it.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I think over the last, I've done selection for North American hops 3 times now. And the first year, it was my first year at Wayfinder, and I was like, oh God. And it was fine. And then the second year we did it, we were like, did it with my team, and we were like, that was okay. And then this year we were like, okay, that was so dialed. We know exactly what we're doing. And then we got the hop lots, and I was like, do I know less about it than I ever thought now? And I'm leaning a lot more towards like pellet selection or like pellet verification, whatever you want to call that. I learned that from Sam at Von Ebert, and he talked a lot about like as soon as you get your hop lots in, immediately smell them, because when you're doing selection, not that you're specifically talking about selection, but to go on a rant, when you are smelling a lot, especially at selection before things are pelletized, you don't have any uniformity over the whole however many acres that are available. So sometimes you smell something like our Citra this year was like pink strawberry, little bit of dank tangerine. It was so cool. And then we got it and it was just like weed. And we were not expecting that at all. Like I didn't see any signs of that. And our mosaic was not as marijuana dank, not basement dank this year as we had expected. So then we're sort of like pulling levers to, generally we get some of that diesel like intense character from mosaic and then dial the fruit character in with Citra. And because of the raw materials that we got this year, we're sort of flopping what those ingredients are pushing for. So it's kind of like whether that's your Mittelfrüh, your Satz, your Strisselspalt, like whatever it is, it could be big, intense aroma hops too. You just have to like, you kind of like get it and then you figure it out. And sometimes I lean a lot on other people if they've purchased lots. Like if New Belgium had something that was like an awesome lot, I'd, pick all about it so that we could figure out like how to pick something from that, whether you see like a spider graph or an evaluation of the hop or just whatever. So it's interesting about, I agree with Ashley. It's so hard to fully understand, at least from my perspective, until you use something.
Yeah, so I'm excited to actually have this cool pool because that'll be a expression of that I've not had, and I'm very familiar with a lot of different Mittelfrühs over the years. I know what my favorites are. I know what I do and don't like, and I'm very interested about this cool pool thing. Not that I could achieve it at my brewery without some wild piping situation. But that's why you do collaboration, to make other people do the experimenting for you.
And I don't really know like New Belgium's particular like buying power with certain lots of hops and things, but sometimes like when you work with other breweries or you are a bigger brewery, you have access to different raw materials. And so sometimes you're like, oh yeah, we contract this specific hop or we buy all of this or whatever. So it's interesting too from a smaller brewery access point to brew something like this. And we didn't really talk about that before this moment, but very interesting. Kelly, what's it like?
We do have access to like, pretty good lots, and we do have people who go on our procurement team, and they like pick out really good stuff. I don't know. I just want to say yes, we have really good access to really good hops.
Yeah, so like
I don't want to go beyond being like weird.
Yeah, but this is, like Ashley said, this is why we do collaborations, and to fangirl back at you guys. Like Kelly and I have worked on projects together at my brewery. Ashley and I have worked on projects together. So it's cool to like be in a place, and when you're in someone else's environment, whether it's looking at their brew log or meeting their team, like we came through here and this is a huge brewery with a lot of people, and Kelly knows everyone's name, says like a specific thing that she's interested or impressed by them. And, funny enough, one of the guys on the maintenance team used to drive me to high school and introduce me to music, and he works on the team here, and we talked about parts and just it's not just about the beer. The community and all of this runs so deep, and being at a place and being completely surrounded by like the support and care of Kelly and meeting her whole team and having everyone so excited for us to be here. It feels silly as just like this tiny little brewer on my little 10-barrel brewery, just dinking around. And, so learning about how she does things, talking to her team, being here, it's, the cool pool is cool, but there's just so much more that we learn here, and, being in someone's city and eating food with them. And this is how you get inspiration and learn. And it's very special.
Yeah. We have a really good team of maintenance people from everybody who makes our beer to sells our beer. Like everyone's really invested. So like, I would say people who think New Belgium, like, yes, we are a big brewery, but this beer right now that we're making, that we're fermenting like at this second, even though it's a very small beer in comparison to a lot of things, it's not like our CEO is down. He's so excited about it. Everyone's into it. Like this beer, and maybe it's, doing its pilot thing, which is supposed to be really cool and whatnot. But like everyone's really appreciative of like Ashley's time and your time, and like it's not like every drop really matters around here.
Yeah.
And so every maintenance person that you met today, every taproom person that you met, like everyone's really invested in all this stuff. And so I think that's pretty cool. I'm not here to give a big speech. I'm just responding to you saying that you saw that people care.
Yeah.
And I'm really telling you, like,
that's real.
the
And
whole
that's not
It's
a
real.
put
It's
on.
real. It's obvious.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
this.
We're
Like-
big feels girls, so
Yeah.
it feels good to have it reciprocated.
I'm
and-
just saying,
yeah.
like, this beer today and every brew I make in the pilot and anybody we brew with actually, like, really matters. And it's not, there's no weird ulterior motives. It's like, we just want to brew beer with cool people. And whatever happens with the beer, what happens with the beer, right? But I think we all believe,
While being very controlled with everything that happens with the beer.
no, like, yeah, we're lucky enough to have people who have stats and a labs that do stats on it and stuff like that. But like, these beers matter. It's not like this is just like,
Yeah. You can feel it. It's very
have
cool and
fun.
special.
Everybody here gives a shit.
As
And
someone who lives
all
here in
the way
Fort
to the top.
Collins, I can just say that we have leaned heavily on the amount of expertise that just pervades the team here. And, whether it's Allie leading sensory seminars for brewery workshop events, or Andy Mitchell, who's programming, for the brewhouse automation. Soren, both of them are judges on our blind panel. You've got it's a remarkably talented team. And, we, for the last 12 years of our existence have pulled on and fed on and worked in this. So it goes in both those directions. Obviously, the Belgium team here loves beer, and it's not just numbers on spreadsheets. It's beer in glasses. And so that's fantastic. But having said that, I want to talk about two things before we wrap up here. And that first one, like we already talked about rice in a broader sense as being a component of this beer, but how that rice actually worked and what format and the actual ingredient. Let's talk about how that made it into the beer, because again, there's some process considerations in terms of what, how you could manage different rice forms. But let's talk about how that evolved. And then I definitely want to talk about the result. Although I should say we've got beer fermenting in the fermenters that are sitting right next to us as we talk. So it might be a little soon to talk about the impacts of that yeast, but let's at least start talking about how you chose a format of rice and how you saw that working in this kind of flavor for the end of beer.
I can kind of say something, but I'm not the rice brewing expert.
You are now.
Oh man, but rice came up. I'm not going to say.
We talked about like purple corn first, and then we were like, how do we do that?
Yeah,
I tell you,
we did. And anyway,
it's involved. So.
I'm not going to say who. They can say their name later. Name is Natalie. But yeah, I mean, come on, Portland, rice lager, all that stuff. Somehow we got information on how to brew with rice. And that is, again, not a normal thing or typical thing for New Belgium. And so anyway, it was pretty rad to hear like things. And so it was like, for a collab, like, let's just do it. And then maybe somebody who's an expert on that stuff started to talk about it.
Well, yeah. So like when we were trying to decide like what format of rice to use, at Wayfinder, we have a decoction vessel or a cereal cooker. So we have the ability to buy raw rice. We buy Adams Grain, Calrose rice. They mill it. So we get rice grits, which is really nice. So that takes a big process point out. Like I know Ashley uses raw purple corn, but that doesn't come milled. And so you have to, kind of work through that. And that's a big hurdle, especially for a collab, to ask someone to go out of their way to figure out how to mill something.
You can't just drop whole kernels of purple corn into your beer and
you could
expect
if you
something to come from it.
I mean,
floaty.
Yeah, I mean,
we almost actually did with this beer.
Just for funsies.
I mean, we just made our.
I have a literal bag sitting by my computer right there.
We make
should
one every
we dump
year.
it in?
Yeah.
We make one every year, and we just made it on Tuesday.
It's beautiful.
Our, one and Taylor, who was here today, who works with me, him and Tommy from Finn's Manor. If you've ever been to that bar, it's an excellent bar. They milled all of it. It took them 9 hours and 30 bags of
like a homebrew mill?
Yeah, like us Amazon. It actually went really smoothly. We got it all done in one day, but it is
tedious.
It is tedious. We wouldn't do that much, of course, but so that was a thought about. And there's a way to do it here, which
if you ever need to borrow some small mills, just let me know. I've got a couple of little electric SS brew tech
maybe
mills.
next year. Maybe I'll make Taylor earn it next year. Be like, hey, so. But yeah, Natalie's worked with this rice before.
Yeah,
particularly it's what Jasmine puffed.
So the one that we used when I was at Breakside, we made a bunch of rice lagers, and we used Jasmine puffed rice. I think it's called something else now, but it's available at BSG, and it is a pre-gelatinized rice. So all you have to do is mill it, and it actually has really nice flavor. It's like less pervasive than flaked rice. Doesn't have that like what I perceive sometimes as like a Play-Doh-y character. So yeah, what's the other one? OYO toasted rice is another one that's available, but also great. All these things are great, but the pre-gelatinized jasmine rice is just so pretty and excellent, and again leads for a really nice, clean, available palate for a cool pool middle fruit hop. But yeah, so Kelly obviously came up with kind of the mash rest temps and things based on what her brew house capabilities are. And it's not only is it an easy ingredient to use, I believe it's sort of expensive for just like, I mean, I remember when we used to brew with it, it definitely is like a little bit of a barrier for entry, but it does work really nice. So yeah, it's just easy. You mill it and go forward as usual.
18%, right?
Yep, we did 18%. Most of my like rice lager information, I talked to Campbell over at Freem. He is intelligent and wonderful, and as the team over there always is, extremely available for information sharing, and they helped me a lot with that. And we kind of like dial over the years, we've messed around with percentages of rice, but like 18%, depending on your situation, rounding up to a full bag is great.
Yeah, I honestly with this beer too, I like really leaned on Natalie's experience and info to make it. I was like pretty freaking scared.
Yeah, and it was easy, right? Like you just mill it with something else so that it doesn't turn into powder.
No, you were great, and I don't know if you knew like all that stuff about. It sounds stupid, but like, yeah, I really,
it's nerve-wracking brewing with the
gained
homies.
Confidence by listening to a pro.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Stuck mash.
There you go.
Have you ever done a collab when
and never
everything?
tell anybody?
Yeah.
Well, so we
remake it.
talked about Sun King earlier. I told you we made a instant mashed potato beer. You want to
How
talk
did
about?
how did you make that and not want to do a pog lager?
It's fruit, man. It's fruit. It's the fruit.
It's different.
It's the fruit. It's different.
We love
What?
potatoes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't make it
true.
with cheese, and I love cheese. And just that's a brewing, you know. that's a alcohol beverage. You know.
Sure.
Okay, it was minute rice and smashed
All
potatoes
right,
on a
well-
3-barrel system that took 4.5 hours to run off. I think.
The 3-barrel system was like, why?
Yeah, it was pretty.
All right, Jamie, what do you got for us?
Well, let's talk about Pilsner malt to complement this, puffed jasmine rice.
Hands down, no other question. Pilsner. Yes.
Well, we talked a lot about just like using, I think with really light, sorry, I'm talking so much. Someone else can also talk. With like really light lagers, I just think it's important to choose the type of Pilsner malt so that you have the platform to not make it like a little sulfury. You don't want it to be overly sweet. You don't want it to be overly doughy because that's not the vibe there. We're just trying to have like easy.
Yeah, and I think like when we were thinking about what to use, it was kind of about eliminating some things that we weren't too sure of. It was kind of, again, not reducing it to, but kind of focusing on one different thing. And so we had kind of toyed around with the idea of maybe some craft malt and stuff like that. But
Oh yeah, I forgot
think
about
we
that.
eventually, kind of agreed that was like one more variable that we didn't really know. Either we change the yeast, that we don't really know, or we change a malt that we don't really know, or we change an adjunct that we don't really know. Only one of those things really to learn something true can happen.
Don't adjust
So
all the levers.
Don't adjust all the levers. Like sometimes enough, is knowing more that adds nothing. That's enough. And so we kind of settled on kind of streamlining it a little bit and doing something ingredients that we were familiar with while using a yeast that we were unfamiliar with.
So where did you end up with in
Yeah,
terms
he's
of
like, so
Pilsner
what
malt?
did you do?
What Pilsner malts do you find complement those rice lagers? Natalie?
We actually went pretty traditional. Like we went with wire
Yeah.
Barker Pills. So Yeah.
Which is funny because I generally very strongly dislike Barca Pills and don't ever use it. But I
You
do.
didn't answer our text.
Well, yeah, because again, I'm not trying to be like, do everything that I say in this collaboration. I've made all of the decisions. No, I mean, I like how Ashley used Barca Pills. I think that it sometimes smells like peanut shell sulfur. So I'm interested to see what it tastes like here. But I think that, again, that's a known component. I thought that regular Environment Pills was too sweet and doughy and soft and characterful. And this is characterful in a different direction. And I think that it's going to be great.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
having an ingredient that we know and an ingredient that we don't know, especially collectively. It's cool to like take all the things we do know. And you obviously very proficient on this brew house and very proficient here and knowing how to make beer here is like a skill that, obviously we don't have, and knowing what to do
Yep.
here makes it very easy to like change a specific parameter or look at a specific parameter, or look at a specific something and see, is this worth chasing down for another project or something?
Parameters are the name of the game.
There you go. Natalie, are there some other Pilsner malts that you find work really well with rice in the various permutations that you brew?
Yeah, we use a lot of like North American Pilsner malt, whether that's a RAR Pils or a Canada Malting Superior Pils, like kind of in that vein. Just like a really, really pale, easygoing North American barley. I think it helps with sulfur too.
I think I don't know, I guess we can interested how much sulfur this yeast typically
Produces.
these Mexican lager yeasts don't produce quite as much sulfur.
And this one's ferments warmer too, so it will probably be more chill.
Yeah, blow off that.
Yeah. So what's it in the tank at now, and how's the rest of this fermentation going to proceed?
Textbook.
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
We knocked out at 10C and it's chilling at 13. So we'll see what happens. And luckily at New Belgium we have a great QA team, and they're gonna once Trevor and I, he's the assistant brewer here, and once Trevor and I see it's teed down and kind of got to its terminal ish point, there'll be a lot of people looking at it and running numbers and doing all that stuff. But I'm pretty sure I trust Omega, so I think this will probably tee down in 6 days from now for a lager, which is crazy. And then we'll lager it out and just try and hit numbers. And I'm excited. Again, I've never brewed with this yeast, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, let's find a place to close here, and maybe we zoom out and talk about bigger picture. You all brew lager beers. We've had conversations in the past. I've had conversations with each of you in the past. Over the last couple of years of your brewing, is there something that you found in your lager brewing that was unusual, exciting, that maybe changed the way you looked at something, or that otherwise kind of created an aha moment for you that we can use as this kind of clever wrap up? Ashley, I know for you it's not about brewing yet another different recipe. You brew a lot of the same recipes over and over and over again, but at the same time you're also a curious person and you're always trying to learn things. Has there been something over the last 2 years that you may not have expected, that you really may have added to your overall viewpoint?
I think that for me, I feel like the more I know about something, the more maybe this is the impersonator, syndrome that I have. But I feel like the more I know, the more I possibly couldn't know all that. So I'm constantly chasing down little things that I think can improve process wise at the brewery. As of late, the last couple collab or seasonal beers that we've made have been single malt, not Barca, just trying to see what they're like. I used Steffi malt from Wireman and a Dortmunder that we have right now that we made with Humble Sea. Very interesting. It's just cool to use it as a single malt, single hop situation. I think we used 2 hops in that one, actually. Ooh, fancy. But I also used recently some Hannah malt from Crisp, and we did 100% Hannah malt beer, just a little 11 Play-Doh all saws, since it's a, Moravian, old school Moravian malt. I thought that would kind of go together and make it for an interesting. It should be at CBC and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. The more and more I look at some of these ingredients and things and just making sure that I understand these processes and where these things are coming from, and try not to rest too much on the things that I think I know. And then just trying to learn stuff from other people. And while I don't make hoppy beer or am interested in these hops, I'm very interested in some of the educational parts of it and where other people get their inspiration from. And I always believe that you can't talk shit about something unless you know a lot about it too. So I love to know about the stuff so that way I can still be included in the conversation, even though I kind of make, the same thing all the time. So for me, it's just kind of about learning little things and dialing in my processes and trying to be a good steward of this really cool thing that I think we need to take care of a little bit better than we are.
I'm going to also say something that I think is pretty interesting about Ashley's like brewing in the last year. Maybe it's a year and a half, but you've completely changed how you treat finished beer with filtration. And we've had a lot of conversations about how like the build back from that point when you have a completely different system is so interesting too, because it's like not only are you approaching recipe dialing and all those things from the front end, but like you have switched the way that you approach it from the end to the glass.
Yeah, with the cross flow filtration that we've been working on for the last, I think it's been 2.5 years now, finally getting that dialed in. So yeah, that's been definitely like something that is unfamiliar to me in just like the technology. You can read about a bunch of stuff in a book, but until you put it actually to use, it's really difficult to actually understand what's happening and to be able to describe it to somebody else, right? Like see it, do it, teach it kind of situation. So until I can teach it and describe it to somebody else, I don't really feel like I have a good handle on it. And we're starting to have that moment where we're seeing things on the front end and filtering a couple, beers that have been dry hopped. We made a beer with Cloudburst that was dry hopped and had gone through the filter, and trying to compare those two things, right? What it is like beforehand compared to just afterwards, and not just our regular beers like Pils and Helles, but yeah, actually going backwards. But yeah, thank you. I don't forget about that, but because it takes up a lot of my brain. But yeah, that has been a big thing in the last year to try and understand more about and change our processes and really make sure our beers taste like our beers.
Kelly, for you, has there been a big learning moment with lager beer that, something that has kind of changed the way you look at things? Yeah,
I just think like working with fruit and like all that stuff and VDKs and reduction of all that has been a very big like learning experience for me in the pilot. Every fruit is different. And again, in the pilot, we do a lot of like fruit work. And yeah, just to see like some things can like only reduce to 200, some things can make it below 50. And so, yeah, just learning like all the different fruit stuff has been pretty intense.
Interesting.
And cool.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Natalie? Has there been something that has been particularly interesting that you've learned in lager brewing over the last year or two?
I think to kind of add to what Ashley was saying about how you don't know shit about shit. I think that this is a multi-stage answer here, but like where I am in my career and like working at a small business while all the chaos happens without a lot of like when you work on a small team of 4 people, if someone is sick or someone's out of town, everything gets shifted really quickly. And the way that we rely on each other to sort of have everything move smoothly, you can't do any sort of dialing in or recipe development or anything that feels like the type of intellectual growth that I think people are expecting to have, especially when you're doing experimentation. You can't pay attention or even note any of those things when you don't have time to do that. So I think like I'm at this place in my career and my life and my, just being a human, figuring out how to not get lost in the noise of it all and still pay attention to all of those things and be excited about things. And sometimes you're just like in the production schedule, and particularly in the Pacific Northwest, because we have hops grown there, everyone from all around the world comes to Portland and Seattle and the surrounding areas to do selection that time of year. So it's kind of like once you hit August, I can't even explain to you what it is like. It's like it is so wild, but also so enriching but you have to go home. Like there's people that you haven't seen in a year because they hadn't come back since the last time they're here, and they've traveled thousands of miles to come by, and you're like, I have to go home. And like you have those moments, but you also like want to learn from these people, and you want them to drink your beer, and you want to have feedback. And so there's just like all of these big pieces. So I feel, and you know, in my previous job in R&D, I felt sort of sometimes creativity fatigue, because when you are contributing your art or your creativity into something that is manual labor and a blue collar job, there's like all these other components to it. Like you're trying to do something specific and the boiler's broken and you're not boiling at all. So like, how are you supposed to pay attention to a cool pool? Like, how do you get to the cool pool? And so over the last couple of months, I've, you know, tried to sort of like, that noise is never going to go away. So to be able to refocus and find joy in having my staff brew beers that they're excited about, and like remembering that there's all these things. And sometimes I just like take a moment and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited about 5 beers that are coming out. Like right now, you guessed it, some rice lagers. I just like it. I can't help it. But we're doing, since at Breakside, we made this beer. They still make it, called White Tea Lager. And I just loved everything about this beer. And working at a different brewery, I can't make that beer because it's their beer. And so like, how do I find that version of that beer for me at this new brewery? And so I've been sort of like searching, and we have a beer in tank right now, but it has sencha tea with dehydrated strawberries, and I'm like super excited about that. And then there's this awesome restaurant in Portland that made this cocktail called Tom Yum and Tariffs, and it was a Tom Yum inspired cocktail. So it has bird's eye chili, coconut, lime leaf. And I'm like on Instagram, I'm like, hey, I had this cocktail the other day and I was wondering what's in it. And then I'm like just creeping around, and I send a picture. Investigating, yeah. And so I sent a picture of the recipe, or the menu, to the other brewers at Wayfinder, and I was like, you guys, we have to make this. So that's something that we have in tank. It's not finished yet, and you know, working on new hop lots and all of these things. So it hasn't really been a moment, but it's sort of just like the momentum and like the realization of doing collaborations and existing in this time, and not letting all of the chaos of the things completely consume you, and just enjoy all of those little fun things and experimenting within, you know, our lager beer little world. So not exactly what you asked, but that's my answer.
I'm just going to let you ask all the questions from now on because you're way better at it than I am. But thanks for letting all of us into this. I'm going to have to title this Anatomy of a Collaboration, because I think, you know, I think that kind of, you know, that spirit of working together, but also learning, pushing each other, asking questions, and being able to develop things outside of that normal routine and the way that you normally develop things, and being able to do that with interesting, creative people that also stimulate and push you in those different ways. It's such a cool thing. And thanks for letting me be a part of this collaboration day that you all have, and cutting out some time for this very conversation, because I've enjoyed it, and I know folks listening out there are going to enjoy it too.
Thanks for having us, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
From layout to production flow, G&D Chillers brings real-world expertise and builds reliable systems that last. Berkeley Yeast's Dry Tropics London offers their best-selling liquid yeast strain with the ease of use of dry yeast. Pactex handles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable. The multi-layered wonders of Indie Hop Strata are now easier than ever for brewers to tap into with Strata Cryo. The Midea 50/50 Flex can convert to all fridge, all freezer, or half and half with just the touch of a button. Old Orchard is your one-stop shop for fruit juice concentrates, purees, and blends. The SS BrewTech pump from SS BrewTech is engineered to tackle even the nastiest, messiest brew days. And get your tickets now to the Craft Beer Brewing Brewers Retreat, happening right at the front end of harvest time in August in Yakima. And just as Natalie mentioned, it is an amazing time. It's a stressful time for all of the breweries and everyone else working on those beers, but it is certainly something that is just magical to be there. You do not want to miss it. Brewing Under the Vines at Rail Breaker this year. Anyway, thank you all so much for talking with me and sharing your thoughts on collaborating with the audience. It's been fantastic once again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. That was awesome.
This podcast has been brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those who love to make and drink great beer. To learn more or to subscribe, visit beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.